Spooky. Today, today Spooky's gonna show you how to make eggs. No, he doesn't care. I'm gonna put him down because I don't want to irritate him. But you guys were asking about how I dehydrate the eggs. So the last video I made where I was cooking up and I scrambled the entire pan of 6 dozen eggs is in here right now. So I'm going to show you real quick, but I've got to be careful because with these, see Spooky's in the background. This is my dehydrator. You can also do this in the oven, which probably will work better because this dehydrator can only go down at the lowest setting at 95 degrees Fahrenheit. And then it blows that hot air through here. And that's what the scrambled eggs looks like. Not very appetizing, but it's not supposed to be. These are starting to dry, but I need it to dry all the way through. That's something that you would get. Let me set this back up. This is something you would do during the process of dehydrating if you do it in the oven. Just make sure that when you're preserving eggs, you really want to make sure it's dried all the way through. So this is one way that I package it. The other way that I tried to package it was in a Ziploc bag, a 1-gallon Ziploc bag. I wasn't crazy about it for 2 reasons. One, when you have big chunks like this, or even just the powder, some of it gets real gritty and it can cut through the plastic, and then pretty soon you have pieces leaking out, little bits of powder. The other thing is, if you're preserving stuff, you don't want it to be exposed to a lot of air. So that's canning stuff, that's preserving. But you guys were thinking about asking, like, how do I keep it? Best way to keep it is in jars, and you can play around with it. So this one here, I'm going to, if you notice I leave it in big chunks, it's going to have a lot of gaps in it. All this space can be used with what, right? Well, here's one that I did. 2 ways to use up as much space as possible is to throw, this is all dehydrated egg. I ground it up in the blender and made a powder out of it. So this is egg powder. Now, what's the difference? This one was cooked a little too fast. You could tell how brown it is. That's how this stuff is going to turn out. I don't care for it that much, but you can survive on it. This stuff here, when it's time to rehydrate, you're going to have to put hot water in here, or put it in hot water. This is going to have to sit a lot longer. I've done a video before where I threw my quick powder into hot water and I tried to eat it only 5-10 minutes later. Still gritty. If powder this fine is still gritty after 10 minutes in hot water, you could bet this stuff is going to have to sit for a couple of hours at least. So I should have ground this up, and I can still do that, but I didn't want to. I want to try something different with this because I've got all this space. You're asking probably, like, what do you mean by try something different? Well, with eggs like this, you're going to make a meal. You notice there's white powder on top? This is instant mashed potatoes. In the egg powder, I've also mixed spices like salt, pepper, and cayenne pepper. So if I throw this into a pot of hot water, we are making eggs, mashed potatoes with spices in it. Other things that you can do, and I know my buddy Josh out there is going to love this, chicken bouillon. You can throw chicken bouillon in there, or throw in a pack of dried gravy. Some dried gravy with mashed potatoes and eggs. It will give you that good flavor, especially if you're, if you're trying to preserve food and you want to eat it later in case of emergencies. You just don't want to be eating crap for emergencies because you're not going to want to eat it. So I have my instant mashed potato box. It's open. I'm going to filter some of that in here with a pack of gravy. Another thing when you're talking about eggs, because eggs is good protein, but it's also really breakfast, right? So another thing that I'm going to do with some of these eggs when they're done. I'm gonna throw them in with some dried oats, and oats kind of give you more of those vitamins that you need, but eggs gives you the protein, a little bit of everything, some of that starch, some of that protein. I use instant mashed potatoes because it's easy, and it's cheap. But if you're gonna dehydrate homegrown potatoes and it's organic, that's even better. So those are some of the ideas. That's what I'm gonna do with this. And another thing you could throw in is some powdered milk. That's the end of the video. Thanks, guys. No, I'm kidding. I have powdered milk here that I'm making milk with right now on the stove. But throwing some of this inside a jar with the potatoes, and then you add hot water, gives it more creaminess. Creamy chicken bouillon. It's good. There's so many ideas that you can throw in with eggs. And just know that when you make scrambled eggs, there's a little bit of egg taste, but it doesn't have a lot of its own salt. So you're gonna add flavors. You're gonna want to add flavors. And if you don't, and you like the way the eggs taste just by themselves, then do that. So that's some ideas of what I'm gonna work on with this. This one is already done. I'm keeping this. It even says on here, eggs and potatoes, and it has the date. This was just in mid-October that I made this one. So this one, I started to make it as is, and all I wrote was add 1 cup of hot water or boiling milk. I'm gonna change this up. I'm gonna clean this off. I'm gonna add stuff to this. A little gravy, a little potatoes, maybe even a little chicken bouillon on the next one for this, and that's it. So that's how you do it. I don't recommend the Ziploc bags. Those sucked. They just like started leaking in the, like if I moved them around, I noticed like there would be powder on the cabinet shelf, and if it's exposed, I don't feel comfortable eating it. Plus, I really like the jars. They're just, when I make this stuff, you know, I put all this work into it to give glory to God. So I want this stuff to look appealing and just look nice. I'm not selling it, but I mean, this is my work. And my work and what I've learned to do with this stuff is a gift from God. So I want it to be nice. I don't want a Ziploc bag that's falling apart with, you know, just chunks of something in it. So, you know, if I have to, I will. But if I have the jars for it, I'd rather do that. So that's the best way to do it. That's my recommendation. I've tried using Tupperware containers. I don't like it because I'll tell you this, some certain plastic Tupperware containers bleed off a little chemical smell. It's really weird. After like 6 months of this food being stored, food is very absorbent, especially when you're talking about starches, breads, anything like that. If I make croutons, after a few months of sitting in a plastic container, some of them start to taste like that plastic. Some of them start to taste like cardboard. If you ever let saltine crackers sit in the cabinets too long and then you break them out and eat them, you're like, why does it taste like cardboard? Because it's absorbing the chemicals that the cardboard and the plastic is made of. Sorry. Okay guys, that's all I wanted to show you. I could go on all day talking about this stuff, but that's the basic idea, and that's what I'm gonna work on now. And when this is done dehydrating, I'm gonna give this another day. It's been on the hot air for 1 day, but because they're big chunks, I want to make sure the center of the chunks are dried up all the way through. I don't need any moisture because that'll make this stuff go moldy inside the jar if there's any moisture. So another day of this, and we're gonna make some mashed potatoes and gravy with that, some chicken bouillon with that. It's gonna be great. So I hope you guys learned something new. I hope you guys try it. Send me some pics. Show me what it looks like. Remember, if you guys are making this stuff yourself, make it your home.